Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Another increase in the COVID-19 positivity rate in the last. Health Ministry imploring Jamaicans to become vaccinated following the arrival of. And later in sports, West Indies in trouble at lunch on day 5 of the second test against Pakistan. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. We begin with news that there has been a further increase in the COVID-19 positivity rate. The island's COVID-19 positivity rate now stands at 48.7%, up from 43.9% recorded on Sunday. The country recorded 752 new cases of the coronavirus from 1,751 tests. The total case count is 63,464. Meanwhile, hospitalizations have decreased to 589 in the last 24 hours, 18 fewer than Sunday's figure. 59 of those hospitalized are critically ill. There are 13,820 active cases on the island. And the virus also claimed 15 more lives for the period August 18 to August 22, increasing the death toll to 1,417. It's day 3 of the 7 days of lockdown recently announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and at least one public health expert believes it's likely further COVID-19 measures will have to be implemented. Cody and Barrett has more.
The country is now on the final of 3 consecutive days of lockdown as the government tries to get a handle on the spread of the virus. Another 4 days of lockdown are to be implemented over the next 2 weeks. Professor Figueroa says it's very difficult to predict when the surge will abate.
I think we just have to do our best to control the spread of the variant, and it is quite possible that after the 2 sets of lockdowns, further action may be required. We just have to monitor and see, because we expect this surge to be larger than the previous surge.
Professor Figueroa, speaking last evening on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, says the current surge is now worse than the second wave in March.
I think that this peak of cases is now higher than the previous peak. So the surge or increase in new COVID cases has been faster and higher than the previous surge of cases that we just saw peaking in March of this year. And I think this reflects the fact that the Delta variant is much more readily transmissible and is really widespread now in Jamaica.
Yesterday, the Health Ministry reported 879 new COVID-19 cases, the highest figure for a 24-hour period in Jamaica. The overall COVID-19 case count is now 62,712. Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
Still on COVID, another appeal to Jamaicans who have not taken the COVID-19 vaccine to do so now. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the country has enough of the drug to administer to persons. Shamela Pullen reports.
On Monday, a shipment of 115,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine arrived in Jamaica.
J&J is here. It's a single-dose vaccine, and therefore you only need to take 1 shot and you would have been fully covered. It's a good vaccine.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says another shipment with some 108,000 doses is expected next week.
What it means is that we now have in our possession here in Jamaica AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson. And we have it in abundance. And from the Ministry of Health's perspective, it is now our job to work with the country as a whole to deliver the vaccines in the arms of Jamaicans to protect them against COVID-19.
Last night, the Ministry of Health also issued a release stating that the National Arena will be open today for the Vaccination Blitz. Vaccination will take place between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Members of the public who are 12 years and older will be able to get inoculated with the Pfizer vaccine. Other previously announced sites across the island will also be open to administer the vaccine. Meanwhile, as the country continues to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic, Director of Family Health Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Melody Ennis, says Jamaicans must be extremely vigilant at this time. She says one person could transmit the virus to up to 10 people in certain circumstances.
We need to get to the point to understand that you can be heard behind the mask. You don't need to take it off to speak. You don't need to take it off to shout. You can be heard, and persons must keep the mask on. We look at the number of persons that can be infected. One person can infect 4 persons, and depending on the situation, if you're in an indoor setting, you can infect up to 10 persons.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Lingering concerns this afternoon about teachers who have not yet taken the COVID-19 vaccine, even as preparation continues for the safe return of face-to-face classes next month. This weekend saw the first of a series of vaccination blitz for students across the island. According to Education Minister Favour Williams, the vaccination rate among teachers is quite high compared to that of the general public.
Earlier on, our teachers were prioritized, not just our teachers, persons who are working in the education sector. Anybody who works within a school surrounding, they are prioritized for the vaccination. And many of our teachers are already fully vaccinated or have taken one, and within short order will be going for their second dose.
So far, over 60% of teachers have either received their first dose or fully vaccinated. For teachers who have not yet taken the jab, Mrs. Williams says discussions are being held to decide how best to move forward.
I know the testing, we've had conversations around testing. Again, these conversations are not settled just yet. As we move through and as we get closer to these dates, I am sure we will have a settled position on that.
The Blitz will continue today and tomorrow. Schools are scheduled to reopen mid-September for primary school and mid-October for high school. Still on education, the government is one step closer to placing specialist teachers in primary and prep schools. Education Minister Favour Williams says it will eliminate the pressure on one teacher to teach several subjects. She says it has not been producing the desired results, especially in language arts and math.
Starting with 238 primary schools in this new school year, and in another 98 schools in January of 22, and continuing to other schools until we complete this.
Meanwhile, she says a national substitute teacher program will also address the problems created when teachers are unavoidably absent for short periods.
We want to discontinue that practice of teachers being absent because they need to take care of a personal matter, and a principal not able to find a substitute teacher, or you have to go pull another teacher and combine classes. The substitute teacher online platform will allow principals to request a replacement teacher, select a replacement teacher, verify claims for payment, and appraise the work of the substitute teacher.
And it's time now for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to Midday News. Thanks for staying with us. Musicians are struggling now more than ever with heavy restrictions on their livelihood. But as we hear in this report from Cody and Barrett, they are turning to the hotel industry to earn.
No events being held locally, while opportunities for musicians touring overseas have either been cancelled or put on hold. And with even more restrictions on movement, things just seem to keep getting worse for live band musicians. When regular gigs stopped, they looked to hotels to cushion the fallout from the pandemic. it has been 18 months. Jonathan Ranking is a producer and drummer.
The restrictions really go against how a lot of us make our bread as musicians, whether it be small gigs at bars, which are now closing based on the fluctuating times of the restrictions of the curfew. Hotels seem to be the safe haven at this point.
But even the hotel sector is too fragile to maintain the weight of the entertainment industry. Revenues from live performances have seen the biggest hit, and working at hotels is still not enough to sustain the musicians.
Even up to 2 sets of 40-minute, 45-minute sets for like not even $10,000. You know what I mean? So it's forcing musicians to really stick to that and to really accept that when they're really worth more than that.
But outside of hotels, he says there's no other option, not even online.
The biggest challenge with the online concerts is that, we're musicians and we're artists and performers at heart. So at the end of the day, it's very hard for us to showcase our talent and really connect with people through a screen, We're physical beings, so that's how we connect. So it's really detaching that intimacy within the music.
But until the world can get back to normal, Mr. Ranking has decided to pivot to in-studio producing. He's encouraging other musicians to use the time to be creative. Cody-Ann Barrett, TVJ News.
To some other news now, days after Tropical Storm Grace impacted the island, the story of loss and displacement continues. In Denby and Clarendon, one family is facing an uncertain future after significant damage was done to their home. More in this report.
This is where Simone Nelson and her 2 children live in Denby Crescent in Clarendon. Their house, not much of a home anymore. The flood waters that coursed through the community Tuesday eroded the foundation. The area where the kitchen once was also destroyed.
I think I'm alone get the whole lifetime when they say I come can nobody else know about it. As you can see, there is no age paper, there is no birth paper, there is no passport, there is no clinic book, there is nothing. By the time I'm ready to grab and move, I was alone, I can grab like if I put my 2 baby, there's another 9-year-old one around the corner. From last time I have them there. There is no help, just me alone. I don't come from Clarendon, I come from Lucy. I'm there here and I try to struggle, I get this. I got to start, I can't let it go, people here and me alone, I'm 2 parents them now.
The cracks in the walls, rotting boards and missing windows are signs that the house was in a rundown state long before the rains.
I can't go in there but I only on one side. As they say, I can't do not ever jerking because the water still run, so the place still a soak. So the least jerk, it a go lose. So right now, I don't know.
The councillor for the Denby division, Joel Williams, was alerted to the family's plight and has promised some help.
This is the challenges that we are facing now, where people are about to lose their homes. Not about to, because this is gone.
But even with that, the family is seeking more help.
I'm not a father for them, and me, I'm a friend them. I'm not help. I really want all the help I can get in the area.
Members of the public who wish to assist Miss Nelson can call 1-876-435-3142. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
And it's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Cody-Ann Barrett.
In the world of business, 2 of Epley's listed instruments will be removed from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. The 2 facilities mature in 2021 and 2023. Both securities will be suspended from trading as at tomorrow. They will then be delisted at the end of trading on August 31. The Bank of Nova Scotia beat analyst estimates for third quarter profit on Tuesday, driven by smaller than expected provisions and improvement in its Canadian and international banking divisions from last year's sluggish performance. Net income, excluding one-off items, rose to 2.6 billion Canadian dollars in the 3 months ended July 31, compared with 1.3 billion Canadian dollars a year earlier. The company's revenue for the quarter rose 0.4% to 7.76 billion Canadian dollars from 7.73 billion Canadian dollars last year.
Now, for the top regional and international stories, here's O'Shane Masters.
In news from the region, Barbados has denied reports that a woman collapsed and died over the last weekend after receiving her second dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. In a statement, the Ministry of Health said that it had become aware of a voice note making the rounds on social media claiming that an unidentified woman who received her second COVID-19 shot collapsed and died within 24 hours after receiving the vaccine and, in a sense, attributing the death to the vaccine. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George stressed that circumstances surrounding the death will be fully investigated. Guyana is the latest Caribbean Community CARICOM country to receive a donation of Pfizer vaccines from the United States. Washington said that Guyana will receive 146,250 doses of Pfizer vaccines on Wednesday. In news overseas, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will, during the G7 leaders' call on Tuesday, announce and increase the EU's humanitarian aid budget from $58.6 million to $234.7 million to support Afghans in country. In a tweet, von der Leyen said the humanitarian aid will come on top of member states' contributions to help people in and around Afghanistan. An emergency meeting of G7 nations is to be held to discuss the crisis in Afghanistan. And that's it for your top regional and international stories. I'm Shane Master.
We head to a quick break. When we return, we'll have your midday sports report. Renata Brown is standing by.
Welcome back. It's now time for your midday sports. Early wickets at the start of the fifth and final day have dented the West Indies' hopes of a series victory over Pakistan as the host reached lunch at 113 for 5 in the second test at Sabina Park. Needing another 280 runs for victory, the West Indies started the day at 49 for 1, but were quickly reduced to 73 for 4 with Alzari Joseph 17, Nkrumah Bonner 7 and Roston Chase not falling within the first hour. Captain Craig Brathwaite 39 not out and Vice-Captain Jermaine Blackwood with 25, then added 28 runs before the Jamaican was dismissed. The Windies, who lead the series 1-0, need to avoid defeat to win their first test series against Pakistan since 2000. After winning only 3 of their 10 regular season games last year, head coach of the Jamaica Tallawahs, Floyd Reefer, says better preparation for the two-time champions this year will see improved performances in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Tallawahs opened their account against the St. Lucia Kings on Friday, and Reefer says player inactivity leading up to the 2020 edition made things difficult.
I think that this year guys are better prepared. Guys have more time to put in some work even before the tournament. Yes, although that the situation here is not as, it's kind of similar to last year in Trinidad in terms of where we only get 2 practice sessions before the season starts. But I would say that most of the boys have had some cricket behind them before coming into the tournament, which is good for us.
Finally, President of the Jamaica Table Tennis Association, Andrew Liu, says he's surprised by the level of competition on show at the recent National Senior and Junior Championships. The 2-day championships, which had to be split over 2 weeks because of logistical issues, ended on Thursday, and Liu says despite reduced numbers, there were some outstanding performances.
I didn't expect the level of performance that I saw over the 2 days. COVID badly affected the attendance in terms of numbers. We were expecting over 200 and we had less than 100. So you see it was badly affected by COVID. But all in all, I'm very pleased with the performances. Table tennis is moving ahead despite COVID, and we have a good crop of youngsters.
And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Anthony, it's back to you.
Thank you, Renardo. Renardo, just before we go, what do you make of the West Indies performance this morning?
Poor, very poor, and I think they will go on to lose this game.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, I think they will go on to lose. They need some really good batting from the likes of Kyle Mears, Jason Holder, and Joshua Da Silva, along with the captain Brathwaite, who is not out on 39, to get something out of this game.
All right, thank you very much for Renardo. And that's where we leave you today. That's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.